Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. There are two times when people really care about Captain America. Now, I'm not talking about the comic book guys and gals out there listening to this. First off, I'm one of you, okay? I have been for years. I still am. So I'm not speaking directly to comic book fans per se, but I'm talking about to the general public, to pop culture at large. There's two times, in my opinion, that Captain America matters. One is the MCU, of course, with the great Chris Evans. And yes, he is freaking great in this role. We're going to talk about him here today. That's one time Captain America matters. The second time when Captain America matters is when fascism rears its ugly head, along with racism, along with Nazis, so we can see the illustration of Captain America punching Adolf Hitler square in the jaw, which I think he made that joke as well in the movie, which is freaking awesome. So that's where we are here today. If anyone follows this show extensively, you see what you're in for. 6 M's. None of those M's is politics. It's the wrong letter. Okay. So we're not necessarily saying, hey, you just tuned into a political podcast. Not at all. However, I think there's a day and time to discuss things, and I have decided today is that day and time. So while we are going to talk about Captain America, we're going to discuss how great this character is in the books as well as in the movies, and all the way around. We're also going to discuss current world events, specifically in these United States. It will date this show, but don't worry, there's 4 years of this crap to come. Hoy vey is all I can say. But before we dive in, let's do this. Captain America is a superhero created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, who appears in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The character first appeared in Captain America Comics #1, published on December 20th, 1940 by Timely Comics, a corporate predecessor to Marvel. Captain America's civilian identity is Steve Rogers, a frail man enhanced to the peak of human physical perfection by an experimental super soldier serum after joining the United States Army to aid the country's efforts in World War II. Equipped with an American flag-inspired costume and a virtually indestructible shield, Captain America and his sidekick, Bucky Barnes, clash frequently with the villainous Red Skull and other members of the Axis powers. In the final days of the war, an accident left Captain America frozen in a state of suspended animation until he was revived in modern times. And there comes the Avengers, and there comes the Cap we know today. There comes the movies, the cartoons, the failed movie, which we can talk about here today too, the short-lived TV show. It's Cap on a bike. For goodness sake, never took the helmet off. We'll talk about all that here today and a bunch of other stuff as well. But that is your lowdown for Captain America. So Phil, you and I have reviewed the movies. We've done all the Captain America films, and those are in the archives, kids. Feel free to check them out. But I want to do something a little bit different today. We have spoken specifically about characters and then reference where they appear in pop culture and other mediums, which is what we're going to do here today with Cap. First off, as a comic book guy, did you get into Cap? Did you collect? Like I'm sure you were into the Avengers, and to some point, was Cap ever on your radar as a full-time collector when you did it?
Didn't get into Cap until like some of the more modern run. I think the Ed Brubaker run was that was when I was really into the book and I started reading it regularly. Before that, I had this idea of Cap like, he's boring. He's a Boy Scout. He's milquetoast. But when you actually read somebody that has a good grasp of the character and ideals behind it, it's not that at all. And I think Ed Brubaker is definitely one of those guys that wrote one of the tentpole runs for the character and really redefined the character in a lot of ways. And you see that in the movies. You see that with a lot of other media that come out since then.
And it's a great story too, right? Because like poor kid, grew up poor, thin, frail, sickly. You know, had a lot of patriotism for for his country, but couldn't do anything. Was 4F at every turn. Wanted to join, wouldn't let him join, and then he becomes Captain America through the serum. I mean, that's a we'll get into the movies here too, but like the Phil, the story itself, it lends itself to the idea of the American dream. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I was just waiting for you at the beginning when you're saying there, there's no P in there. Yeah, I thought you were gonna throw out municipalities or something. I don't know. I thought you were gonna
Ah,
finding them somewhere.
wonderful! I missed that opportunity, didn't I? Jeez, it's the 7M podcast. That way, every week it's a possibility of politics. That's great.
I don't think. Yeah, the idea of us talking about a municipal bond or something crazy like that. I don't think that that's something your viewers are that interested in.
Well, let's put it to you this way. One of the M's is miniseries, and to be fair, we've only ever done Watchmen. I don't know if we've ever actually done another miniseries besides Watchmen, but we did it. It's there. So, but anyway, yeah, you and I talk off mic a lot about what's happening in the world. And again, we don't need to do that full time through this hour, but it's Phil, it's hard to ignore. We try to shut it out. We try to get on about our day, and we're very early in the process now. But I don't know. I find myself in some weird way gravitating back to this character. I know that sounds messed up, but again, as I said at the intro, Phil, it feels like people really care about this guy when things in the government are going wonky because he's such a pillar of what's right, what's fair, what's doing things for the right reasons, having a you can't bait him, you can't change him, you can't sway him. He is a rock, like always does the right thing. You know what I mean? I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that is his strengths as a character. In some ways, he can be a bit rigid, um, depending on who's writing him, of course. But yeah, these things mean something, and I think the current landscape of the world, um, you see the things that you're fed all the time, and how that has an effect on the way you think, the way you live, everything. And right now, we've all got these phones in front of our faces constantly. We've got laptops in front of us constantly, and you get on social media and certain apps, that's all they're throwing in front of you is certain information to make you think a certain way about the world, to make you think that this is the only answer, and it's not. um, to your point about Cap, I've said for the longest, huge Spider-Man fan. I don't know who I would be if I didn't discover Spider-Man as a character, because he defined so many things about the way I think about the world, the way I think about myself, the way we identify in things. And it might seem a bit silly, but I think Cap works the same way for somebody. That imagery of him standing up for something and not just, bowing down when things get tough, or just following. I mean, he went through that time period at one point because he was a soldier and he was a guy that just followed orders, but he went through that time period at one point like, no, this is wrong, and I'm not going to follow something if it's wrong.
And that, of course, in the books, I think it was Captain America 300 when everything kind of went down. But John Walker assumes the mantle, Captain America. Which, by the way, Falcon and Winter Soldier, we have not covered. Did we cover? I don't think we covered that here, did we? Or did we?
I remember reviewing that show for something. I don't. It wasn't this podcast. I
Oh
thought
my
we did.
goodness!
But if we didn't, I thought it was a great show. I thought that John Walker was handled very well in the show, cast very well. Um, that imagery of him, I believe it's episode 4 or 5 with the shield, and he's got the blood dripping down off of it. Really, really great stuff. Um, Take that, all of you people, at when the Civil War movie came out and said Cap is wrong. I will point to that exact moment. That is exactly why he was right, because you saw who the government put in his place when he wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, dude, Cap was right. I'm sorry. Like Tony's argument is valid. It's 100% valid. And dude, look, when Endgame happens and he lands back on the planet, and he sticks it in Cap's face and says, "I wanted to put a shield of armor around the world, and you said no." I'm like, he's kind of got you there, But look,
I was very mad at Tony during that scene because I was like, "You're wrong. You are wrong, and your selfishness is what got you in this situation."
yes, again, he wasn't wrong per se in that moment, but his way to get there. Now, you can't force people to conform. That's not what a democracy is, man.
No. Yeah, I don't want to get too far into the weeds of Endgame and Infinity War, but him coming back after at every turn he could have steered that ship back to Earth and went back and convened with everybody else, but he refused to work with Cap and going off into doing this suicide mission on Titan where he almost got himself killed, got Peter Parker killed, and then you have the nerve to come back and blame it on Cap. No, you were wrong. You were still wrong. It kills me that he would not admit that, but that's a big part of Tony's character.
I mean, look, rich, privileged white dudes, there is an inherent problem there in their logic.
Yeah.
Um,
He
yeah.
has this mindset that I have to fix it because
Yep.
nobody else is smart enough to fix it. I'm the only one that's pragmatic enough to fix it, and that is his weakness at times.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that is a weakness. And look, we pointed out on the show before, there's plenty of rich white dudes out there doing good work and giving to charities and are actually good dudes and don't flaunt their wealth in front of you. And that's fine. I don't want to dismiss everybody, but there's probably twice as many who are, just freaking horrible people. We're seeing that play out in real time, Phil.
Yes. Yes. The other thing that very much bothered me about Tony and all of that stuff and everything he said about the Accords is, hey, all of this was to fix a mess you created.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's true. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have had. What would we put Avengers together because of X, Y, and Z. But yeah,
Yeah, Ultron was your creation.
yeah,
Multiple things that happened, your creation. Your idea during Civil War, hey, let's go lock Wanda up in a room so she can't hurt people after your weapons killed her family.
yes, jeez, yeah. Well, again, it's Cap was right. Okay, and when Civil War happened, and I saw it in real time in the theater for the first time, I'm like, I hate they're going to start coming to blows here eventually, but Cap is right. Like
Yes.
oh my goodness, yeah, because if the Avengers would have just been made like lapdogs, they would have been turned into a police force, told to go where they want to go, and then Cap's thing is like, but who determines where we go and when we go? We shouldn't be told who to help and who not to help, because like plenty of countries in the world are struggling, Phil, like in the MCU too, of course, which is what we're trying to say here. But you're going to give these guys a work assignment for the day where today you're going to Greece. Well, no, like that's not, you know what I mean? Like that's another problem that came into play too.
Yeah, a lot of very relevant things there as well of him saying, hey, after I went through this whole thing in Winter Soldier where there was a computer that was going to take the identity of anybody that was a threat to Hydra and anybody that was superpowered and kill them. Hey, maybe it's not a smart idea for us to create a registration of all superheroes where the government knows our secret identities. No, that's probably not smart. And hey, maybe we don't want to leave it up to this computer that can be tampered with by somebody like Hydra to uh, denote who is right or wrong here.
Mutant Registration Act all over again.
Yeah, maybe that's not a smart idea, Tony. I know you and your idea of hey, we got to fix this or something worse will come. No, it wasn't this. And then you bring in Thunderbolt Ross of all people. Like, don't keep getting me started on Tony. Like Tony coming in there and going, "Hey, this guy's right." Can you imagine if Bruce Banner was sitting in that room? He would have jumped up and said, "Are you kidding me? We can't
Yeah.
trust that guy."
Yeah. Yeah. Again, of all, like you said, of all the people, and then now he's president in the movie.
Yeah,
that's coming up. Gee, I wonder how that happens, Phil.
Yeah, because as we've seen many times in American history, when people are afraid, and somebody offers them a solution, they don't pay attention to any of their history or any of the other things around it. Um, there's a big enough threat and there's enough fear mongering around it. Hey, we'll trust this guy because he said he'll keep us safe. And that's
Yeah.
all I care about is being safe. And so after everything, the snap, the scroll invasion and everything, this guy is coming in and going, no, I'll keep you safe. I was the one that tried to spearhead the Accords. I was the one that said that all of this should be taken care of. I will keep you safe. So, of course, the American people are probably like, yeah, let's listen to this guy. Because they don't know that he tried to hunt Bruce Banner down and harvest his blood to make weapons.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. MCU's a wacky place, kids, in case you don't know.
Yeah.
Very wacky place.
Yeah, but also there are a lot of things here that, again, very relevant, that are
Yep.
very much like real world things. And I do think that there is some realism to the Civil War arc of, yeah, you guys are going all across the world and creating international incidents. At some point, this has to be regulated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, again, to your point, there's other relevant things here. And um, just like in the world of pro wrestling, comic books tend to work the best when they mirror real life to some degree, current events going on in the world. It is still escapism, as is any form of entertainment, kids. But, if every single book is about aliens on other planets, don't know how many books you're going to sell. But when you show Times Square, when you show 9/11, when you show real world events, you show terrorism, you show President Obama in a comic book. I mean, you're connecting it to the real world and making people feel like I identify with that. That's where I have lunch. There's the diner right there. There's the apartment building I grew up in. I mean, Phil, for someone whose city has been depicted in movies and TV shows for years, you know what that feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. And to the point you were saying with Cap being a symbol, I think giving evil a face, whether you can call it propaganda or not, and letting people understand, look, the Nazis are evil in their truest form. There's no there's no coming to the table and allowing everybody room to debate their stance. There is no stance for Nazism. No,
No,
there is no common ground to be found with Nazis.
it's like wanting to come to the table and negotiate with, the Taliban. Excuse me, what?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I don't get that. Terrorists are terrorists. We don't negotiate with terrorists.
yeah, and I mean specifically Nazis and their ideology that is based in racism. No, there is no counterpoint to I don't want a certain uh race to exist.
Mm, yeah. Um, well, look, we warn people it may get a little too real for them, but you know what? That's fine. Like, Phil, I got to be honest, man. There's some moments where I'm like, you know what? Why am I not louder? I mean, I got reasons for that. You do too. We all do. If you live online, if professionally you're making a living, sometimes you don't maybe want to put yourself out there too much because you're afraid of repercussions, which I get that. Do I have some burner accounts on social media? Boy, you better believe it. Cause I'm not going to really put myself out there the way I kind of want to, but maybe Phil, sometimes I think, is that how we got in this problem to begin with? Too many people not speaking up.
I do think that's been part of the problem, especially in everyday life, being around friends and family sometimes and letting them say something that you know isn't right and just ignoring them and not correcting them or challenging them. I do think we need to stand up and challenge people in our circles a lot more.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. People who were too radical. First of all, I don't really know any radical people on that side, and if I did, they wouldn't be in my life at all. That's just not. I have no use for that. And you know what? Going back to Cap here, right is right, wrong is wrong. Not like you said, Nazis are wrong. There is no shades of gray here.
No.
There is no. I was following orders. Sorry, that doesn't work when you're operating the furnaces. Phil, there's no such, well, I was doing what I was told. No, you're not. Like, You've got to freaking be kidding me right now with that. You know what I mean? Like, no, man, evil is evil. And I'm not talking biblical sense. I'm not talking about a dude with horns. I'm saying on this planet, evil happens every day. If you want to call it something else, fine. But there's good and wrong, Phil. I mean, I think that's basically what we're saying here.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying you could paint Captain America and some of this other stuff as just, propaganda. But at the same time, um, Nazism is about the realest depiction of evil as you can get in the world. Because this was a real thing. This isn't like fantasy. This isn't like mustache twirling villain that, is gonna get away at the end and then like end up in jail and somehow end up breaking out. And his whole plot is about, something unserious like I don't know, like the sky laser of the week from like these movies or whatnot. It's not that. This is a this is a real insidious organization that should not be allowed to still exist. Because, like I said, there's no room for debate with them. There is no, uh, well, we've just got to find common ground with them and defeat them that way. No, no,
No,
no.
no.
Nazis need to be eradicated once and for all.
Yes.
Of course, as we've seen multiple times, depicted in Captain America comics and other graphic novels and things. Um, Violence, of course, shouldn't always be the answer, but I am never going to disagree with a Nazi being punched in the face.
Never. No, because look, I am the age that I am, okay? Not 20 something anymore. I've been on this planet for a little while. I just don't understand, Phil, how it's going to sound naive, I guess, for my age, but I don't understand how it still exists. Like, I know racism is real. I get it. But we've seen what this did. We saw what I don't know. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss, Phil. I don't mean to sound like an idiot, but I don't understand how people are still fooled by it. I just can't wrap my head around it, man.
Well, that's the trick there. People aren't fooled by it. People are choosing to
Mm.
either be a Nazi or look the other way. Because I took a class in college, and this was years ago. But I remember our teacher came in and she asked us to all write down our definition of power. What do we think power is?
Mm.
And uh, I think my definition of it at the time was the ability to exert control over other individuals. That's what true power is to some people.
Mm.
And for a lot of people currently in the world we live in, where you know you can't afford the way of life you want or the quality of life you want, um, you may or may not qualify to be a supervisor or to gain some of the things that you see other people do. And you
Mm.
see more and more people of color and minorities rising out of uh, the boxes that they were placed in for a long time in this country. And for some people, they see that as obstruction to them getting the things they want. They feel powerless. They feel like I can't do anything to change my stake in life because this is all happening around me and I need somebody to blame. I need somebody to put under my thumb so I can feel better or stand on top of them. And that's what this gives them. This
Mm.
gives them power. This makes them feel like they mean something. It makes them feel like they belong to something.
You
It's
know,
just
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, Phil, I've always thought that there's more of us than there are of them. I'm starting to wonder.
well, there's more people in the world that are selfish than
Mm.
you think.
Mm.
Um, Especially in a time where we saw a lot in the election, we saw a lot and a lot of things currently happening. People devaluing intelligence, and this is what's kind of happening. Um, when you devalue intelligence and you spread ignorance, and you spread this way of, hey man, they're not listening to you because they think they're smarter than you. They're trying to tell you that you have to be morally upright and all these other things. And you can't say this, you can't say that. All of these old things, old guard, that's going away. But why do you have to do those things? You don't have to do that. You don't have to listen to those people.
Mm.
What's going to happen if you go in a Capitol building? They can't
Right.
do anything to you because they can't do anything to me.
And he would look. I was
And
gonna
he was
say,
proven right.
he was right, dude. I didn't even want to say it, man.
And this is what was at stake in this election. You had to prove him wrong. And I don't think that enough people understood the assignment. I think people were looking around like, well, it's the same thing. The last 3 elections of, oh, it's 2 candidates I don't like. But there's a greater thing at stake here because there are some people in this country and in this world that are trying to reestablish their foothold. They're trying to reestablish again what makes them feel powerful because they felt powerless. They were starting to feel powerless. They were starting to look around and say, this country isn't a country that I grew up in. This isn't the country that I thought it was. And that's why their whole slogan is taking the country back, make America great again.
God, dude, whitehouse.com. It says America is back.
See?
On their YouTube, on the banner.
See? But
We never went anywhere, Phil. We never went anywhere. What are they talking about?
But see, at the core of all of this, it's I feel powerless, and this guy with affluence and money and all of the things that I want, wealth, success, he can give me that.
Yeah.
And there are others that are just like, well, why do we have to just stay down here and suffer? Why can't we just take back what we think is ours?
Yeah.
And they don't think that's wrong. They think they're justified in it. And I that's why I said I don't think there's anything about Nazism that's fooling people. I mean, even when you look in the history of Nazism in Germany, this wasn't like one guy came in there and took over and told everybody, "Hey, you're going to follow what I say." This was the result of a civil war.
Yeah.
There was a percentage of that country that wanted that. They wanted things to change. And, that's always, a great man was celebrated on Monday when a lot of this inauguration stuff was happening. And one of his best quotes is, the real triumph of evil is when good people do nothing.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of people asleep at the wheel for a long time.
To sin by silence makes cowards out of men.
Yeah.
I can never remember who said that, but it's always in my head. Or to remain silent. I forget. Or maybe I misquoted. Yeah, but it's. I mean, it just makes my head hurt that we're in this position. And you were talking earlier about the idea of Captain America can be propaganda. I get that. I totally get that because there was a time when it did come off as propaganda when we didn't have this. I mean, there's always been hate and divisiveness in the world. We know that, but to the levels that we're seeing now, like I gravitate back to this guy wearing the flag, which I'm not patriotic, Phil. I don't own a flag anywhere. Like it's not on my bumper. It's not on my shirt. It's not on my sleeve. Turn the wrong direction like I'm going into battle. By the way, what's wrong with you people?
Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com.
I don't have this hyper fanaticism about being a patriot because I'm not, Phil. I never served in the military. I never put my life on the line for my country. I'm not a patriot. Mm-hmm. Like, I like living here pretty much. I mean, but for when people say I'm proud of my country, I'm proud of what? You didn't do anything unless you fought your way to get here and you're now a citizen. Cool. I think you can be proud of your country. If you were born here, Phil, I don't understand this I'm proud of my country bit. Am I crazy or what?
Well, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of things I love about America. I love the idea that, anybody can, grab an opportunity and better themselves. I love the idea behind that. I love, a lot of things this country is supposed to stand for, freedom and the ability to go out and, have the right to vote and voice, your opinions. And we don't live in a monarchy where we're just, blindly following somebody.
Mm.
I believe in a lot of the things that democracy is supposed to stand for. But of course, this country is very, very flawed. Uh, like you, I wouldn't consider myself like this ultra patriot. I don't have a flag in my home. It's not like I, extol myself to all of these things. Like you have to do this as an American citizen. But like I said, I do believe in things like our democratic process,
Hmm.
and I do believe in, you know, uh, the ability to, change things and affect change because that's what you're supposed to do. That's your responsibility
Hmm.
as a voting citizen. Um, but like I said, very flawed country. I mean, if we get too deep down into the weeds with the history of this country and my history, my people's history in this country, it's still pretty big stain on the legacy of America. Uh, and that's what makes many things very interesting about where we are currently. Uh, I mean, even if you get into like the Bill of Rights, for example, this guy got mad at me once because I said I love what the Bill of Rights stands for. I love the principles of it, but when it was written, the author of it was not talking about me and my ancestors.
Mm.
And the guy was trying to say, well, retroactively, I was like, no, you can't take that context off of it.
Mm.
That's a part
Yeah.
of the history of it.
Yeah.
You can't say, all right, well, ignore the fact that the guys in that room that signed these things also owned slaves.
Yeah. No kidding.
You can't ignore that part. So it that's just a microcosm of what it is to be an American. Like you have to take some of the negative things that's come with this country, but also some of the freedoms and privileges that we have that other countries don't. And make no mistake about it, I do, appreciate it. And I am grateful for some of the freedoms we're attributed here. Um, but that doesn't mean I am blindly patriotic at all.
No, I mean, I don't get it. I don't get that. I don't get it's on my car, it's on my hat, it's in my house. It hangs off my car. I mean, off my truck. Excuse me. It's on my truck. It's on my hat. It's on my boots. I don't know. I don't know. And plus, Phil, a lot of that to me has always reeked of this is my country. You don't belong here.
Of course. And yeah, I get it. In some ways I get it, but I think that there's some things about it that ultra patriotism, some of the jingoism with like going and joining the military and some things, it's just yeah. I've never really got into it. And that's kind of baked into the core of Captain America as a character as well. And you could argue again that's part of the patriot the propaganda of the comic that Steve didn't go and join the army for a lot of the stuff that we see in modern depictions of the army. He
Hmm.
didn't go and join the army because he wanted revenge or this. He wanted to do it. He wanted to stand up and fight because he felt like it was the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
even though he didn't have the physical ability to do it.
I mean, I just think people have lost. Well, I was going to say people have lost their way, but to your point earlier, people are just who they are. Like, and when he gets elected for the second time, and now we see what's going on here because he's in power again. It's like turning on the light and the cockroaches running across the white floor. Like it gave it empowered them, and now they've been pardoned. These guys have been pardoned, let off the hook. Like,
Yeah,
phew, dude, how did we
yeah.
get? Look, you don't have to answer this. How in the world did we get here? Like, I'm sure it probably wasn't just one thing, but we're just so dumb. I mean,
I think it's a combination of things. But I think it's a combination of, like I said, as much as I love a lot of things this country is supposed to stand for, um, exceptionalism and individualism is a big part of American culture, and I think that that's part of his ascension to power
Mm.
in multiple ways. But I also think, like I said, that that's part of like a Captain America as a character. Like it never is supposed to be about Steve as an individual. It's about the symbol that he represents. It's supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be about everything that he believes in. And, at the core of his character, it's that he believes in standing up for the little guy, or that, one person can make a difference, or that, you know, uh, that even if it might sound a little naive, the belief in your fellow man. And I think that those kind of things are, I don't know, they kind of feel lost in a world where everybody is very cynical.
Yeah, I mean, it's I can't. Yeah, and well, look, if we try to help Tom understand this, we'll be here all day. But it's insane to me. I just can't. I think I said to you, in fact, a year ago, I said, watch him get reelected. And I didn't half believe it when I said it to you, but I don't know. I don't know. I just had this, man, what if it goes the other way? You know what I mean?
It,
And I'd said it to other people, and I just, oh, Tom, no chance.
yeah, and it can always swing the other way. We've seen that depiction of things in Captain America comics and
Yep.
in real life, where it's, um, I do think a part of it is we went 8 years with a black man as president, and then right afterwards we swing right in the opposite direction. And the answer to correcting uh, what happened in 4 years wasn't get more progressive, or elect another black man or elect a black woman. It was elect another white man to save us, another old white man to save us.
Yeah.
And
No
then when that
kidding.
old white man was too old to fill the job again, let's go right back to where we were.
Yeah.
Again, let's not move forward. Let's just continue to regress or stay stagnant. And it's interesting. I think that's one of the things that I enjoyed a lot about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, is that we saw that Captain America in Endgame picked Sam to precede him. And you still have people walking around like, well, what makes him the guy to be Cap? Well, because Steve said so. Because
Yes.
Steve held the mantle and he said, this is the guy that I'm handpicking to carry the shield without me. And you still had to go through this journey with Sam of what does it look like to be Captain America as a black man in his country. And I love that they tied that back to uh, the stuff with the Tuskegee stuff, and they tied in the great Truth miniseries, and they brought in some of the other black characters there, and it wasn't just, all right, well, he's just going to take on the mantle and nobody's going to blink an eye, because of course that's not realistic. That's
No,
not
not at
realistic at
all.
all. And so I love that he had to earn the mantle, and he had to realize for himself that he deserved it, and he, like Steve, needed to stand up and be a symbol for people. And currently, I don't think that we've had that person that has inspired us to snap out of it and just go, well, what are we doing? If we've had enough people that have, got on TV and said, this is why this guy is wrong and why he should be defeated, or even somebody saying this is why Nazism is wrong or why this needs to be defeated or whatever else. But I don't think there's been a guy that stood up and really inspired people for the past 12 years or so.
I agree with that.
Not like Barack Obama inspired people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of what's missing in the world. I think that, again, sounds very hokey and naive, but I think that that's what makes Steve so pure, that he inspires people, man. And whether that be in the Marvel universe and people around him, but I think there's something to the idea of what the character inspires in people as well.
He's a symbol. He's a symbol, more than anything else. I mean, he's a symbol of, like we said, right and wrong, but he's also of, we have to do the right thing. I mean, treat people equally, everything that America should have been.
Mhm.
And, we are still to some extent, but I got to tell you, man, God, this is going to make me sound like a white-haired 80-year-old dude. The America I grew up in is not the America I'm seeing right now. It's just not.
It kind of is. It kind of
I
is.
mean,
It's just certain parts of the country is just turned up a little bit louder. And
it's amplified. I get
it's
it. Yeah,
amplified and it's on TV. But uh, yeah, that was the thing the first time he won, where people were like, "Oh, this is not the America I knew." It is. It is. It's just.
right.
It's in your face now. It's on mainstream television. It's more visible.
Yeah.
But I think that's why we had the decision from 2016 on to be more vigilant, and I don't think that people uh, took on that responsibility in the way that they should have. I've seen a lot of people say that, why should I have to vote for somebody I don't like, or why should I have to vote defensively, or you know, why should we decide between the lesser of two evils? I think you have to understand what's at stake here and what we need to stand up against. I think there's a difference between, I don't I don't agree with all of this person's politics and I may not like this person, but also understanding what this country is supposed to stand for and what we should have drawn a line in the sand and said, this is not it. This is not what this country is supposed to stand for.
Mm. Well, to your point about Captain America, we said he's a symbol and everything. It's interesting to look through the run of the books because, of course, that's where you and I both met this guy. Was the books.
Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you.
By the way, side note, can you wrap your head around the fact and appreciate the fact that a whole generation of people are meeting Captain America outside of a comic book? Is that not the craziest thing in the world?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the same way that Ed Brubaker things changed things for me. I think that there's definitely an argument that the movies changed the perception of Captain America for a lot of people because, I mean, he was a D-list, C-list character for a long time. He wasn't a flagship character for Marvel. That was Fantastic Four, X-Men, Spider-Man. Those were all of the top sellers. Captain America wasn't that for people, but I think the movies have changed that for a lot of people. I think the fact that, in my opinion, Captain America has one of the best trilogies out of Marvel Studios. I think that says a lot. And the fact that we're now going into a fourth movie and we're still telling interesting stories with this character and somebody else taking on the mantle, I think that says a lot. And it's not something I would have ever expected. I wouldn't, because we talked about it. We had failed Captain America TV shows. We had that made-for-TV movie or whatever that was not very good. And so to get out of that time period and see a successful franchise, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think because, look, I'm of a certain age, and I actually remembered as a kid this Captain America in spandex on a motorcycle, and he never took the helmet off. And I think that was Reb Brown, if I'm getting the name correct. And then, of course, we had the failed movie with Matt Salinger, who, by the way, trivia fact, is the son of J.D. Salinger, who wrote Catcher in the Rye. And also that mask feel, of course, as we know, has the rubber ears on it because why not, I suppose. But yeah, things that just, they just fail. And then, as we know, it took Marvel a long time to find its footing in Hollywood for creators, the right creators to get a hold of the properties and actually do right by them. And it wasn't until they started doing everything in-house that they really started to find their groove. And then now we have, fast forward years later, Captain America is a global icon, as he was for comic book fans, but now he is around the world. And that's thanks in large part to Chris Evans. We can't go this whole show without mentioning Chris Evans and his impact on this character. You and I have done all the Captain America movies, and we've done a lot of other MCU properties. We've said repeatedly over and over and over again, if you don't get Chris Evans, this doesn't work. I mean, Phil, he's the perfect guy because he's understated. The performance is not over the top. He's not a goody-goody. He's not like, self-righteous. That's not him. The man himself doesn't come across that way. Very understated, very humble. Phil, that's why it works, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he comes off very likable. I think that he fits the role very well. Even when he's giving the speeches, like Winter Soldier, when he does that great speech, and it just feels believable. You just want to believe in this guy.
Yeah, you want to believe in this guy. He's just fantastic. I just can't say a good thing about Chris Evans. As we're talking about, they're going to recast Black Panther, but they don't really have to do because it's going to be T'Challa because it's going to be his son. So there you go. Problem solved. He will still be called T'Challa. It will be another actor, of course, but there you go. Problem solved. Which, I still to this day think that Chadwick Boseman would have been okay with it being recast because the character is just so important to people. But why is it important? Because he made it important. It's kind of the same way with Evans and Cap at the same time. Dude, let me ask you this. Has what Evans has done for this character, has it sort of topped what the character meant initially? I know that's a big question, but I'm talking about for pop culture. For comic book fans, the answer may be different. What do you think?
I don't know, because I think he has so many memorable moments that's changed that. I mean, like I said, the speech in Winter Soldier, him wielding Thor's hammer in Endgame, of course. I think that's changed the perception a lot.
Yeah, dude, there's parts of me that wonder if he's if what the MCU has done, what Evans has done, is not actually topped what the books have done. I don't know. Kids, we were talking about the books, and we're going to give you the timeline here. So basically, as we said, this character debuted in Captain America Comics #1, December 20th, 1940. My goodness, was that a long time ago. He had early success, and then the character started to decline in the mid-40s into the 50s. Instead of punching Nazis, he started punching gangsters, to try to, I guess, sort of change the villains there. And then, of course, as the Cold War begins to happen, then the character starts to change again. Then Korea happens. It starts to get sticky. And suddenly Captain America is not somebody that, we want to put in a comic book. But then, thank goodness, the 1960s comes, which changes everything, Phil, as you know. And that leads us to Avengers, and it leads us to Captain America. What a brilliant idea. Like, well, where's he been? Frozen in ice, go. Like, it's great because it just answers the question simply and quickly, and then he just catapults into the mainstream after that.
Yeah.
What so in terms of the versions, I know you mentioned the Brubaker story. We know that other guys have become Cap. Bucky was Cap for a time, walking around with a gun, which is weird to see. But as we've said before, Steve Rogers was a soldier. Steve Rogers killed people. I mean, he's a soldier in war. So, has there been a version of Cap? Is Sam the best version since Steve?
I don't know if I can say that because I mean, Brubaker, the Herculean task he did of bringing Bucky Barnes back to comics, and this was one of those deaths that it was never supposed to be undone.
Right.
He did the unthinkable, brought Bucky Barnes back to comics, and he brought him back in a meaningful way. I would say that Bucky is one of the best Captain America characters ever. He's surpassed just being his sidekick in some some comics that a lot of people probably didn't read. I think his time as Cap was great, but also I just see him as Winter Soldier. Like that's just who he is. That's his identity now.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I didn't enjoy his time period as Cap. I liked the suit. The Alex Ross designed suit was cool.
Hmm.
Even though he had, like you said, the gun and the knife with the shield. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything they did with the character after that. The idea of him taking on the mantle and what did that mean. But I did enjoy Sam as Cap as well. I think Sam as Cap, to me, is the closest we've gotten to Steve. I know that might sound like sacrilege, but he's a symbol for different reasons, and I
Hmm.
think that he works in that role based on the stuff in the comics. Because I don't think the stuff we've seen in other media have scratched the surface quite yet, but the stuff in the comics, he's proved that he's more than worthy of the role.
I mean, I can't wait to see this movie because I think Anthony Mackie's going to be fantastic. And I hope this movie makes $1 billion, and I hope it's a massive hit. And I hope it puts the MCU back on the map in a big bad way. I'm in the bag for the MCU, Phil. I've made no secret about it. I don't care. You know, I watch Star Wars stuff and I'm like, eh. And, you know, does it affect me? To some degree. But I got my original trilogy. I'm happy. I got some stuff since then that makes me happy. It's all good. But like if the MCU were to ever get to a point where it's like we're done, I'd be heartbroken. Like I want to see this continue for a long time, man.
Yeah. I just love Sam's character arc throughout the MCU. I love the
Yeah.
idea that when we're first introduced to him, that he doesn't follow Cap because he knows that he's Captain America. He doesn't befriend him or help him because he knows that he's Captain America. To him, he's just another war veteran, and he made the decision after the war to help other war veterans and to help other people because it was the right thing to do. And I love that Steve saw in him somebody that he wanted to be for his entire life. I don't think people see it that way, but it's like if Sam was, if Steve was physically capable of just enlisting without the serum, I think he sees in himself that he would have tried to do the things that Sam did and acted that the way that, even stuff like all the way having the character arc of him deciding to follow Steve. And then you see more and more that Steve was taking bits from Sam. When Sam was gone, Steve started a group to help people, to have people just sit down and talk. Because
That's
that's
right.
what Sam would have done. He did so many things once Sam was gone because it was just like, this guy inspired me. It's like it always looked like he was following me because I inspired him, but it's kind of the other way around. He inspired me.
What a great call. That's a great observation because you're right. Like yeah, because that's exactly what Sam would have done for sure. Yeah, great call. I mean, look, to me, Anthony Mackie's the best guy to play Falcon. And again, cast the wrong guy. Maybe this doesn't work. I think he's great. I can't wait for this. I don't love because I don't like racism, but I chuckle at weird white people who don't know that Sam took over in the book.
Yes.
I happen to find that very funny. Because Phil, they're out there. Oh, you make him black for? No one made him black, you friggin' idiots.
Yeah.
Like,
why are you making this character so political?
Yeah.
Political for his entire existence, or why are you handling the race? Race has been handled in Captain America books for decades.
For decades. Yeah. Yeah, for decades. I just can't wrap my head around it. But like again, that's my naivete, I suppose. I don't know. But yeah. Freaking crazy. By the way, picking up from the 60s, the Avengers happens. We have political shifts in the 1970s. Vietnam happens. And oh my goodness, that's going to start affecting the character as well. Marvel, for the most part, were neutral on Vietnam. Let's see, in 1971, Stan Lee wrote in an editorial that a poll indicated that a majority of readers did not want Captain America to be involved in Vietnam, adding that he believed and the character simply doesn't lend himself to the John Wayne type character he once was, and that he could not see any of our great characters taking on a role of super patriotism in the world as it is today. Sometimes you got to read the room, Phil. I think maybe that was the right move.
Yeah, I think it's the right move.
So, I mean, you know, go ahead.
Of course, it's not perfect character. Character has never been, consistently, written as a perfect character.
Sure.
But in order for it to work, I do think you have to keep the character pure in some ways.
So we know there's a difference between Steve Rogers, who's a white man being Captain America. And we know there's a difference between Sam Wilson. By the way, truth. Can we talk about Isaiah Bradley here? Because we don't want to leave him out of the conversation. Dude, I love that he's in the movie. I love they're going to tie back to the show on Disney Plus. I collected the Truth books in real time and freaking loved them. Like, I'm such a fan of the idea of, yeah, there's another Captain America. And you're like, what? Like, I love that was put into continuity. I mean, talk to me about what you believe are the differences here. And I mean, of course, a lot of them are going to be obvious, but how does the symbol change from one guy that wears it to the next?
I mean, it's just like I said earlier, and how, as great as I think this country can be, it's complicated, it's flawed. And I think because of that, depending on whose experience we're drawing from, their story is going to be different. And, how they decide to make decisions, or, the way they see the world is going to be different. But that's part of what makes America America. I mean, the idea that, two people can take on a problem and decide to stand up and do something about it, but their means of going about it are going to be totally different. I think that's what makes the idea of there being more than one Captain America so interesting.
And it, like in the DC universe, we see multiple Green Lanterns running around, and in other characters, multiple Flashes. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense for there to be. And by the way, I've not collected Cap books in years, so maybe this has happened, Phil. Multiple Captain Americas in Marvel continuity at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
I think there are currently two.
Are there? Okay, interesting. Yeah. Who is it?
It's
Steve
Sam and Steve.
Okay, there you go. All right. Interesting. Yeah. By the way, what's your thoughts on the movie? Because it looks like a hit. What are you hoping that will happen here? How do you hope this will all play out?
I love that it's going back to what made the Cap franchise so interesting. I love that it's going back to like the political thriller stuff, espionage, grounded. Because we've done like the big alien soap opera. We've done a big like colossal galactic war and all that other stuff. And so I love that all of the stuff that I've seen from the trailers is like grounded in some semblance of reality, even though there's a Hulk running around.
Right. Yeah. The big red dude. Don't worry about that. I get it. Because, you got to scale it back down at some point.
Yeah. And I love like just the tone of it. I love that it seems like the leader is going to be a big part of this. The fact that we didn't get a second Incredible Hulk movie, I thought we missed a chance to use such a great character and a leader. And so I'm glad he's being used here. And I just love the idea of everything that Captain America represents. And like we said earlier, him punching out a Nazi and him solving his problems by, punching it in Braun. And his enemy in this movie is going to be somebody that has intellect and just outsmarts people. That makes all the sense in the world.
I think it does. Makes sense to me. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see how this all plays out because I'm intrigued, and plus I'm a fan of these guys, man. Like, we'll see how it all plays out. But it's, in the end, like the character of Cap can change as the country changes, so he can become different. And it's, I got to bring this up because it was a sore spot for a lot of people, including me. Cap being revealed as a member of Hydra, which all that turned out to be nonsense, didn't it?
Yes.
So what was because I never got into that storyline. What was it that actually happened here?
I forget the entire story. But Cap being Hydra, and because wasn't it? I forgot the entire storyline. But yeah,
Let's see.
very divisive, very
Yeah.
divisive storyline.
Yeah, supposedly it wasn't him. It was a clone or some nonsense. I don't know. Something like that. But yeah, look, we're talking about the other versions because I had to point this out. And by the way, I'm getting away from that Hydra stuff because I hated it. Hated the idea of it.
Yeah, you're talking about the Secret Empire books, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's like, isn't it a Steve from an alternate reality
That's it.
where he was indoctrinated to Hydra as a kid, and then yeah,
I mean, look, the alternate reality multiverse stuff can solve a lot of problems. You can have fun with it. So basically, when we first saw him outside the books was in 1944, kids, 4 years after the character actually debuted in the serial film Captain America, which was also the first piece of non-comics media to feature a Marvel Comics character. The character later appeared in 2 made-for-TV films in '79, Captain America, which that is Red Brown in the title role with the clear shield. That outfit, dude. And that clear shield. I'll never understand it. And then Captain America 2, Death Too Soon, which came out in '79. 2 different movies. In my head, that was a TV show, which is how I remember it, but apparently it was not. And they both aired on CBS, I believe. And then a self-titled feature-length film, that's Salinger with the rubber ears. And now Red Skull is Russian, not German. So that's fun. Safe to say that Chris Evans is by far the best example of a living, breathing Captain America. What's your thoughts? Because there's rumors that he is going to come back in some form or another as Captain America. What have you heard? What's your thoughts? What do you think?
I would love to see him show up again. I think that the time should be right. I don't want to see it as something that undermines Sam as Captain America, but I just think like a brief cameo would be really cool. And even if they just bring him back as an older guy still, and he's still in retirement, I love that idea too, because they briefly did that in the comics.
Well done. Yeah. And plus, if you're going to bring him back, there has to be a point to it. Like I've heard it speculated on that, when he goes to return the stones, that there's your story. And I'm like, I don't know. Do we need to go back and see that? I don't know. I kind of feel like we got all we need to get in Endgame. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think I think that you could do an interesting mini series of him time traveling to return all the stones to where they came from. But I don't think we need like a movie about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems odd. Well, I've always heard it speculated as a series on Disney Plus too, and I'm like, you're going to pay Chris Evans all this money for a Disney Plus streamer? Like, I guess you could, but
I wouldn't be upset. I think it could be interesting.
It could be. Yeah, I don't know. If you're going to back the money truck up, let's back it up and get this guy on the big screen. And of course, there's also Downey's coming back. This time he's Dr. Doom. A lot of people having heartburn over that. I'm like, look, obviously you don't know your books, and that's fine that you don't know the books. It's okay. But everybody needs to calm down. Like Marvel has seen the writing on the wall, Phil, I believe, to a large degree. They've seen what happens when you don't stay true to the source material, when maybe you're trying to change characters too much. I never needed to see Daredevil do the walk of shame after having, had sex with She-Hulk. Never needed to see it. And I know you can explain things away. Oh, well, Tom, he was a fun character. No, stop. That's not who he is now. Like, I think they had their moment of fun with certain characters, but I think Phil, honestly, I believe there have been moments when maybe they kind of lost focus to some degree. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely been some unpopular moments with certain characters. I guess the older and older I get, the less it bothers me because it's just kind of like, well, it's just a movie. It doesn't
Sure.
stop anything. It doesn't change anything. If you are just like, no, it's gotta protect the sanctity of these books that I enjoy. The books are still there. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
They didn't burn them. You can still read those books. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We didn't get rid of them. It's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The older and older I get, the less and less I'm like, it has to be exactly like the comic. It has to be a perfect adaptation, or throw the whole thing away.
Yeah, and look, it's one of those things where, like, as a younger guy, a lot of that stuff mattered, but like you, I don't really care. I'm on the record of saying this multiple times here on the show. I'm just the point of like, look, unless they take away what I fell in love with as a kid, I don't really care what they do. Now, if they start trying to take away what I fell in love with as a kid, I got a problem with that. But no one's doing that. I mean, Lucas tried, but I got my bootleg copy of the original trilogy, so I don't need anything else. I'm good. I mean, I enjoyed the latest series, but it's one of those things where it's kind of a work in progress.
For sure. I feel like as long as it keeps most of the core principles of the character and most of their character traits intact, I'm fine with it. I don't need it to be a 1-to-1 adaptation.
Right? Yeah. Are you suggesting that when Snyder held up the comic book of the Watchmen next to the camera and said, "Okay, shoot it just like this"?
Yeah, it didn't work quite as well. It was a little bit lifeless at times.
Sure.
But yeah, he's also done other weird things with characters where I'm like, yeah, no,
Yeah. Stop. You can stop now.
This is not for me.
Yeah. Enough's enough. We don't need this anymore. Yeah. Well, kids, before we get off on a tangent on that wacky dude, and there's a lot. We've done it here before, by the way. It's in the archives. Go look it up. I want us to be real for a second and just kind of tie this back because, look, I thinly veiled this as we're just going to talk about the character, and we did. And there's a lot more we could say, and we're not going to spend another hour. But here's what I'll say about this to sum up. Like, Phil, 4 years is a heck of a long time. And I don't know how we come out of this. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what needs to. Phil, do we need that guy? Like you mentioned earlier, do we need somebody that's charismatic? Do we need another Barack Obama? Do we need someone, no matter what his color is, doesn't matter, and female too, fine with me. But is that what we're missing? Someone to turn the lights on and say, look, there's a better way, right? I don't know. What is that party missing right now, do you think, that can turn this ship around in 4 years?
I definitely think that they need a candidate that inspires people to stand up to this and to actually get out and vote. I think that's been the thing that's been sorely missing since Barack Obama. I just don't think that we've had a candidate that's inspired people in the way that he has. And I mean, Trump has definitely inspired people in a negative way, but but the other way to look at it, I'm saying it's a negative way, but it's what I described earlier. There are a lot of people that don't think it's a negative way. They listen to him because they feel like nobody else is listening to them, and I think that that's a big problem, not just in politics but in the world. I just don't think that people are listening to each other.
Yeah, it's again, it's frightening. I'm scared for my kid. My kid's 16. I'm scared for what he's going to inherit one day. I'm scared for everybody. I'm concerned for minorities. I'm concerned for gay, lesbian. I'm concerned for immigrants. I'm concerned for everybody that this guy's targeting. Like, he's was Maya Angelou that said, people will tell you who they are. They'll show you who they are. Like, I mean, that's where we are. He told you what he was going to do. He's doing it. I don't understand why people would. Well, look, you can't take it back now. Like Phil, to your point earlier about people kind of like he warned people. I mean, the most Googled terms on election night was how do I change my vote? That was one of the most Googled terms. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, it took you this long to see what was happening?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't get it, man.
But I think that's we're in an age of information, and we're in an age of a lot of sources vying for your attention and vying to mislead you, vying to give you some misinformation. And I think a lot of that happened during this election. I think a lot of that has happened in general, and I know you veiled it that way, but books are a source of information. Comic books and stories, and even before that, fables and stuff. People telling each other parables was a way to spread information. And I just, again, I don't want to come off hokey, but I do think there's something to really sharing things with people, whether it be anecdotes or something, to show people like there's a better way than this. This isn't it.
Yeah, this is. And by the way, this will never be it. There's never a time for this, Phil. Like, you can argue that, it's kind of like, there's a time for there's a time for Captain Picard. Okay. Diplomacy, soft spoken. Then there's a time for Captain Kirk where it's like, nah, let's just blow him off the map. There's a time for that in terms of, sci-fi and make-believe and characters and books and stuff. But we're talking about real people with real lives and a position, the highest position in the land, as they say, highest office in the land. That's just that, dude. It was corrupted before he even took the oath. He had already corrupted it. Like, man, I dread it. It's going to be a long 4 years. I don't know. I mean, look, we got to keep our heads up. I mean, what do you focus on? You know what I mean? How do you stay positive and think that, look, in 4 years we'll turn around? What signs have we seen, if anything, or have we even seen them yet?
I don't know. Somebody asked me this earlier, and I didn't really have I didn't really have a great answer. But I think the best thing you can do at this moment is, stay true to what your beliefs and your principles are. Don't get too lost in defeat. Don't let this turn into a despair thing. Uh, keep a circle of like-minded people. That doesn't mean get in an echo chamber and
Sure.
only listen to people that agree with your opinions, but at least, stick around like-minded people and try to reach people that are interested in listening. Don't waste your time arguing with people that want to be misled.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because you won't get anywhere. You can't change them. There's no changing them.
No, you can't argue with people that don't care about what the truth is, or don't care about what facts are. Uh, it's just not going to work, and that's why I say you gotta. Not to say don't try to reach people, don't challenge people on their opinions, but don't waste time, and don't get too drug into debates with people that aren't trying to change, that don't want to be reached.
There's no debate. That's not a debate, Phil. That is an argument. That is,
Yeah.
I got it all figured out. I don't want to listen. Well, that's not a debate then.
Yeah. There are people that you can talk to, and there are people on both sides that I think, because make no mistake, there's misinformation across the board. Um, and there are a lot of people that are very much stuck in their ways, and they've dug their feet in, and they don't want to hear any other side than their own. But I think that that's part of what needs to change. I think that that's part of why everything has become so divisive, is that, I said, people are not listening to each other, and people are not willing to understand understand where somebody is coming from. Because I think there are a lot of people in the world that are hurting, and that's again, if we go back to the core of this, I believe that there are a lot of people hurting, and they just happen to be listening to the wrong person giving them answers that aren't really answers. It's just really them trying to act like I'm on your side, but I'm not on your side. I'm trying to get something for me. I'm opportunistically on your side.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, kids, here's what I'll leave you with. Rich politicians probably don't care about you. However, they do care about your vote. So if the only thing you do in 4 years is think, well, I don't trust so and so too awful much, but I can't believe everyone at their core is completely corrupted, and I'm going to believe in the system. It's hard for me to say all this, man. I'm older than you are, but it's hard for me to say all this. Like, I kind of think this thing is so flawed now. Like, it's hard to not tap out, man. I mean, Phil, is the system so flawed we can't fix it now?
No, I don't think that that's true because again, a great man in Dr. King stood up, and when black people did not have rights in this country and they were still seen as property, he stood up and fought for a better life for people. I don't think that there's a such thing as it's that dour that, we all have to sit at home and not vote. Because I think that's part of the way that these kind of people continue to win. And I mean, if we take anything from Captain America, the character, you do have to understand that, no, my voice means something. I can make a difference, even if it's just me in small ways trying to make a difference in my circle. We have to stand up to these things and, fight for what's right.
So here's what I've got. And anyone that saw Captain America and the Winter Soldier, then the scene where Peggy Carter passes away. And by the way, Phil, can we just give a shout out to the tremendous life that character has received on the What If series on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, really enjoyed the TV show that I wish would have kept going.
Same. Yeah, same for sure. Yeah. Well, a great way, I think, to wrap this up is, again, we're referencing that movie when Sharon Carter gave the speech, and it's actually taken from Mark Twain, but it's fantastic. There's a reason, kids, why Mark Twain's considered one of the greatest figures of the 20th century. There's a reason for that, because the guy was just a brilliant writer. So here's Twain's original writing. Let men label you as they may, if you alone of all the nation decide one way, and that way be the right way by your convictions of the right, you have done your duty by yourself and by your country. Hold up your head, for you have nothing to be ashamed of. It doesn't matter what the press says. It doesn't matter what the politicians or the mob say. It doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. Republics are founded on one principle above all else: the requirement that we stand up for what we believe in, no matter the odds or consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move. I mean, I'm not trying to start a revolution, Phil, but I'll take comfort in words written by men far smarter than I am, and see how we get through these next 4 years, man. Hopefully, we all make it through.
I thought when you said Winter Soldier, you were going to give the Cap speech that he gives on the helicarrier, because every time I've watched that movie, I am willing to run through a wall for him every time he says it.
He's had so many great ones, hasn't he? Like,
yeah, I'm probably paraphrasing, but the speech I'm talking about is I know I'm asking a lot, but the price of freedom is high. It's always been. It's a price I'm willing to pay. I'm willing to bet I'm not the only one who is.
It's great. On the platforms in Endgame, when he makes that speech about the fight of our lives, and Rocket goes, he's really good at that. And Ant-Man's like, right? Like, they're all looking at each other. So awesome. So awesome. Yeah. Well, we will end on the words of fictional characters, because right now we got to cling to something to make it through this turmoil that is yet to come. And let me say this before I throw it to Phil for the last word. This show, everyone's welcome here. Okay, we are inclusive. No one's not unless you're hateful and you are racist and you are one of those people. I got nothing to say to you. I don't think there's any fixing you. That's not up to me to fix you. But, we're inclusive of different persuasions, different lifestyles, different colors. It doesn't matter to me. We've always tried to be even keel and be respectful, and we're all in this together. We should be. And at the end of the day, everyone's going in the ground. At the end of the day, everyone's going in the ground or going out some other way, and that's it. So make best use of the time you have, and that's my only soapbox on I'll do. But too short, Phil. It's here and gone in an instant. No sense in spending your time hating people, telling other people how to live, and judging people. I just can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, as a person that has never enjoyed wealth, I've been poor or middle class my entire life. Lower middle class, really. I've never quite understood having wealth and having more money and more power than most people, and deciding what you would do with something that a large percentage of the world doesn't have, is to use it on making other people's lives more miserable. I've never understood that concept.
I saw something the other day. It was probably just a meme. It was a throwaway social media meme. But it really got me thinking. I mean, I'm honest. I'm being honest with you here. But the meme was something like, you may be the villain in someone else's story. And I thought, dude, that really humbled me in that moment. And I thought, is that true? Am I someone? So then in my head, I start going back to all the people that I've been in my life in the past several years. And like, am I the villain in someone's story? Like, you'd like to think you're not that guy, Phil, but you don't know how others perceive you sometimes. I mean, it makes you want to be a better person, man. But like, to your point about the rich guy that doesn't want to, how can you intentionally not care? How do you just not care? I just don't. Oh my God. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I've and I don't say this for pat on the back. I'm sure you've done this too. A lot of us who are lower to middle class and grew up poor, because I did too. Dude, I've helped people and didn't have the means to do it. I'm sure you have. A lot of other people have. I don't say that for a compliment, but it's just, we know what it's like, like other people, not so much. Oh, I was trying to end it on a good note. Now I'm back to being upset again. Well, I may just go watch some Captain America after this show and get myself amped back up again. But like I said before, kids, we're all inclusive on this show. I hope you enjoy it. We put a lot of work into it, and I love this stuff, man. It's my jam. I love podcasting, and I love putting myself out there and my thoughts and my views and opinions. And if you agree, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But I just love doing this, and hopefully all the guys and gals I record with love it equally as much as I do. So, Phil, let's take this home, my friend. Give me your last word on Captain America.
Yeah, I think that Captain America is one of those characters that has transcended his initial purpose. I think for a lot of people, he means a lot more than I would assume the creators thought he would way after the fact. I think that says a lot about the power of storytelling. I think that says a lot about, what symbols mean to people. And especially at a time where I think people could use symbols, and I think people could use escapism.
It reminds me of the first Avengers when he's talking to Agent Coulson, and he's like, isn't that a little, because he wants him to put the suit back on. Is that a little old-fashioned thing? I think this is what we need right now. So, full circle. Full circle. Kids, keep your head up. If you're one of those people that don't see the problem, if you woke up on January 20th happy and went to bed happy and you're still happy, I don't really know what to say to you. Doesn't mean I hate you. Doesn't mean I wouldn't have a conversation with you. But I'd like you to help me understand why you're so happy. And I'm not above conversation. Like we said, you can't debate someone if they're convinced they're right. But I'm happy to speak to people who are open-minded. But again, I tell you, if you're happy while the rest of the country is not, I don't know who you think the problem is, but I don't think everyone around you is wrong. So all you can do is do what you feel from your heart. And, you have to answer for it. But the problem, kids, now is that we're all going to have to answer for what's happening. We're all going to be affected to some degree or another. And some of us a whole lot more affected than others. So when you see footage of people being dragged from their homes and families being separated, it's happening. It will come. May not be next week, but it's coming. Ask yourself then if that's okay. Are you still happy? I hope cooler heads will prevail. I hope that for all of us. But again, keep your heads up. Everybody's welcome here, as I said, and we'll try to get through this thing together. But do me a favor and try to think about other people around you. The world does not revolve around you, okay? There's other people in this with you. Let's try to understand everybody. And if you don't have that in you, I got nothing to say to you, because evidently there's no talking to you. So that's it for us. Next time, back to happy, fun, entertainment stuff, and hopefully not so dour in the end. Everybody keep your heads up. Stay strong. And remember, time's ticking. 4 years is closer today than it was yesterday. We'll get there somehow. Somehow we'll get there. But until then, that is Captain America.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.